he make his spiel about the assassination. All that time, BBC, API, the world know that the Prime Minister in Trinidad and Tobago is under an assassination threat. The army was mobilized. The Prime Minister house under sandbag, and they bring out the cannon. I asked DCP Richardson, what is the basis for all of this? He said some persons were plotting or have plotted to kill the Prime Minister, and we have discovered it. I said, are the persons in custody? He said, some of them. No, that's okay. I didn't laugh, because sometimes you hold some first and you hold the rest after. I said, what are they charged with? And he started fumbling. I said, what are they charged with? What is the charge? Couldn't tell me. I started to get worried now. And I'm staring him straight in the face. I said, do you have evidence to support this? Because you must remember, they were locking up people black is white in that season, eh? So I asked him, do you have evidence to support this? He said, well, we are working on the evidence. And I said to myself, Prime Minister called me yesterday to come to a meeting about assassination. You in front of my face now telling me about working on the evidence? I didn't tell him that, I just thought that. I said, who are these people? He said, Muslims. I said, Muslims? He said, yes. I said, are you implying that in Trinidad and Tobago, Muslims are trying to assassinate a Prime Minister? Why? Because you know who she is, you know. I had my thought. But what he was trying to tell me is that the motive for the assassination is that she was a Hindu as Prime Minister and Muslims had conspired to assassinate her. I said, do you have evidence to charge anybody on that? He didn't answer. I said, but you have people detained. He said, yes. I said, that means you have detained them under the powers of this state of emergency. He said, yes. I said, well, would you be in a position to lay charges against them when the emergency ends as it must in the short order? He said, well, we'll be working on that. I said, that means when the emergency ends and the powers are no longer there for them to be detained on the powers of the emergency, you will have to let them go. He agreed. I said, well, good day, sir. And so say, so done. They were detained under the powers of the state of emergency. They had to release them. My colleague here, Faris Alwari, was one of the lawyers who went to the court to force a writ of habeas corpus to bring them before the court and to demand that they be released. The court released them before the process was concluded because they were not charged with any offense. They were just detained under the state of emergency, just like the other thousands of people. And since then, no investigation has shown any progress on that matter. But worse than that, at about this same time, I think it was the same day, I got from a whistleblower in the same way I got this one, I don't know who sent it to me, a document coming from the security services showing that when the Prime Minister spoke to me, the police had already assessed the threat and ruled it to be a nonsense, a hoax. Even as they were sandbagging the Prime Minister's house and the world was being told about this heinous development, they knew, because the police department that was supposed to assess that threat had determined that these Muslims were no threat. They make a jail though. I took that to the president too, because he, as commander-in-chief of the army, his army was mobilized, and I thought he needed to know. I took it to him too. And since then, the only thing that has happened out of that is that Munilal, Sharma, and others driving around this country with blue light on the car and security in front, behind, and by the side. Because it was said then that they too were at risk. And even though it was proven to be a hoax, while they remove my security, they have security. I am the opposition leader, interfering with people's business every day. People vex with me because every time I expose a contract that somebody was supposed to get, I'm at risk. The police, the same police, determined that I have no risk. So since December 2010, I have been providing my own security at my own expense in this country. Because the police has determined that I have no risk, and therefore they give me no security. Eric Williams had. He was never opposition leader. Patrick Manning had. Basdeo Pandey had. Kamala had as opposition leader. I don't have. From them, but I have my own. Understand? But more importantly, Mr. Richardson is a man who relies on the government for his existence in the police service. The man is well past his retirement. He is only there on part-time contract by the government. He is now on a piece of contract that will expire in November. Mr. Williams puts him to investigate the Prime Minister whose very political life is at stake if these emails are shown to have any substance. The very life of the government is at risk if these emails are shown to have one iota, one modicum of truth. So Mr. Richardson now has the Prime Minister's life in his hands, and his contract is to be renewed in November. And he gets his 2 salaries, one as pension and one for the extension or whatever. And you want us to accept that as an investigation where the democracy was threatened? And while casting no aspersion on Mr. Williams, because probably know he's trying his best. But what is the record? What is the record? The record is that we know he has things to investigate, and they seem to become very problematic for him. We have to ask ourselves, is that why the Prime Minister is insisting that it goes there? The only way the confidence would be returned in this country is if there is a thorough investigation, one that is credible and believable, done by people who are not beholding in the way that this officer is beholding to the government. And the way the government is fighting like a junkyard dog to prevent this from going to the Integrity Commission, I believe they have something to hide. If somebody says something about you and it has no basis, you will deny it, of course. You will take steps to bring evidence to show it is not so, but you wouldn't be getting on so. What are you getting on so for? What are you getting on so for? You go around this country and ask anybody if they have the confidence that the police service can do a proper job so as to give you confidence. It matters not what they say in the end, whether it is yea or nay, but the fact that it was done by them. You would not feel the way you want to feel. My constituents are telling me all the time, they will not be comforted by that. And if it is supervised by Mr. Richardson, who is beholding to the cabinet to retain his post-retirement job, then you know where to put that. And of course, the Prime Minister already knows what the result will be. It is only because she knows why she could say, the same time she chose to speak in the Parliament, pull out from her document a script asking for me to go to the Privilege Committee, even before the investigation has determined whether in fact it is true or not. You understand that? I filed this motion on a Tuesday morning. It took the Speaker almost a week to approve it. But I am glad to see that the efficiency of the Parliament has improved. That as soon as the Prime Minister says Privilege Committee, say yes. And of course, that was not done frivolously. It was done after careful consideration. Exactly 3.1 seconds. And of course, I led my team out of the parliament in protest. Because it is my view that when a substantive motion is filed and you are named in the motion, you are to surrender and subject yourself to the parliamentary debate. But this Prime Minister, who respects nobody, doesn't answer the President the way he wants an answer, doesn't speak when you repeal Section 34, sat there and said nothing in the Parliament while being head of the government, does not come to the Parliament to hear what is being said during the debate, spend the whole time upstairs consulting with her handlers. And then when all the others have spoken, and I get up and wind up the debate on a motion that I have brought, where the issue points to allegations of misconduct on your part, where you refuse to say what you have to say in the Parliament so that the Parliament could respond to what you have said in your defense. You come down after I wind up the motion and asking me a question when I have no opportunity to answer because she is the last speaker. And my position was, and the PNM position is, if you really wanted to answer the questions properly, fairly, and honestly, you would have subjected yourself to the Parliament's debate and not manipulate the debate to be able to speak, so I can't ask you any questions. And I can't take issue with your defense. And on that basis, if you want to talk to yourself. We go on. And of course, she spoke to herself. And the only thing that came out of there of any substance is that she knows that the Integrity Commission is the wrong place for this to go. Well, on this matter, I have done my duty. As opposition leader, I was patient. I didn't run to the press and try to scandalize anybody. I didn't leak it to anybody to misrepresent it. I came to the floor of the Parliament 6 months after it was stuck in the system with no action. And now, wash my hand of that. But I clench my fist for the fight to demand that this government give us a proper investigation. Because now that we know, and now that we've seen their behavior, and we know them from how they behaved in the last 3 years, we know that it's quite possible that there may be barbarians at the gates. So tonight, I leave this to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, especially you, the young people, who they are bombarding on Facebook and the internet, trying to force feed you with their lies and their propaganda. You watch as the weeks and days go ahead. I simply want to let you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, know that you know me. I am not an irresponsible person. I am not an office-hungry or office-crazy person. And when I take the action I have taken, I simply take it on the basis of my grandmother's old saying, moon does run, but day is catching. In this moonlight tonight, we await the dawn of the mornings ahead. Thank you and good night.
That was a speech delivered by the political leader of the PNM, Dr. Keith Rowley, at the PNM's public meeting on Thursday, 23rd May at the San Juan Promenade.